Welcome to the Triathlon Nutrition Academy podcast, the show designed to serve you up evidence-based sports nutrition advice from the experts. Hi, I'm your host Taryn, accredited practicing dietitian, advanced sports dietitian, and founder of Dietitian Approved. Listen as I break down the latest evidence to give you practical, easy to digest strategies to train hard, recover faster, and perform at your best. You have so much potential, and I want to help you unlock that with the power of nutrition. Let's get into it. Joining me on the podcast today is one of our Academy athletes, Denise Wilson, who is coming to us from Port Macquarie in New South Wales. And what I wanted to pick Denise's brain on today was her adventures with Ultraman Australia in 2022. As she prepares for Ultraman Australia 2024. So welcome, Denise.
Thank you. Hearing that date already makes me feel a bit nervous, Taryn, but that's fine.
What doesn't kill you only makes you stronger.
That's one of the lines in the Powerless songs.
Your hype songs, your pump-up songs.
So sad.
So good. So for somebody that doesn't know what Ultraman Australia is, do you want to explain what this crazy ultra endurance event is?
Absolutely. So it's a triathlon in its longest form. Day one is a 10-kilometre swim with a 140k ride with about 1,500 metres of climbing. Day two is about 283-kilometre ride with about the same level of climbing. And day three is a double marathon with hills. And I always like to add the with hills bit as if a double marathon's not bad enough in itself. There's a 12-hour cutoff each day. And if you don't make the cutoff, then you proceed as being I think it's a participant rather than finisher. And you have crew that are out there with you on the course across the 3 days. It's held in Noosa. Everyone says, Noosa, beautiful location. Start and finish is beautiful. The rest of the 12 hours is pretty busy.
And hilly, like it is not flat terrain through that part of the world.
No, it is beautiful part of the world, but it is super hilly with a lot of climbing, particularly on the ride days.
And it's not the only Ultraman event in the world. There's quite a few now. There's some in Brazil, Mexico, Spain, Canada, Hawaii.
Wales was the home of it, I think, and Hawaii. There's something to do with branding that Australia Ultraman actually stands apart. So if you win Australia Ultraman, wasn't a huge issue I actually personally needed to consider. You can go to Hawaii. I guess it's the equivalent of Kona for Ironman athletes. But yeah, there are a few, and I noticed on the entries this year it's getting slightly more popular, whatever that means. I guess people looking for a different type of challenge and adventure.
Yeah. So if you're listening and you live in a different part of the world, you could Google and see if there's something in your area if you've got the crazy gene like Denise does, that the longer the better.
Yeah.
So what on earth made you want to do an event like this?
I'm 59 this year. I took up triathlon in 2012. I took up running marathons in 2007, so in my 40s, so a very recent career in ultras. I lived in Sydney all of that time, raising my family and working. Someone said to me, oh, there's an event happening that I'm crewing at that I think you'd really like. I hadn't done an Ironman. I hadn't done a 70.3 race. I might have done one. And I was probably swimming about a kilometre in the pool at that time. I learned as an adult. And she said, it's got all the things you like. It's got adventure, it's got community, it's got crewing. And that stayed in my mind. And in order to do Ultraman, you need to qualify and do an Ironman in a time frame of 14 and a half hours. So therefore, I decided to give up all the running to a certain extent, learn to swim, learn to ride, in order to do that crazy race. It was just something that captured my excitement. And so in 2018, 2019, I did Ironman and qualified. And then with COVID, 2022 was my year.
And you loved it so much that you're going back for more. Why are you going back for more?
That's an interesting question that my closest family friends ask me each day. And I seriously thought about it because of all the things I wanted to get out of Ultraman, I ticked 999. The one I didn't tick was finishing day three. And when I finished, I had decided that I'd given my all to that race and I'd done my very best under the conditions, and that was going to sit there. Ian and I then spent the next 3 weeks on the motorcycle in Western Queensland, and he's a person that obviously knows me well after 37 years of marriage, because he looked at me as we're having a drink in the pub and says, you want to go back and do that race again? And I said, yes, I do. So definitely unfinished business with me. The bigger driver actually is I'm 60 next year. And when I was 50, I think I actually did my first triathlon. That was super important to me. And it's the only thing I can think of doing that year that's really going to drive me and make me satisfied. So that's what I'm putting my hand up for.
I love your passion and drive, Denise. It's one of my favourite things about you. You're a quiet little achiever, but lots of drive backing you there to even want to do something like that in the first place and then go back and finish that business.
I did say I was going back. I'm now saying I'm going to do a new race. It's not the other race. And there's a lot that I've learned there, but this is actually a new race that I'm doing. It's not a repeat, and it's not I am using the tagline unfinished business in my own mind, but I'm beginning to work through actually this is a new race.
Yeah, I love that. That's a really nice way to think about it. After doing that event once, what are some of the things that you've learnt from that you can take with you for the next time?
I learned out on course that I'm good enough. I have really high expectations of myself. And when I made the decision to stop that day, it was the right decision for me at that day, at that point in time. So I definitely learned that I'm good enough and it's not about comparison. The big things moving forward were chafing was horrendous for me to the point that I was bleeding and crisscrossing across my body. That was a big one that actually stopped me on day 3 because of the level of flooding and rain and the water that we were going through. The other one was nutrition, and I thought that I had understood what I needed to do. I had paid attention to nutrition in my training, and I heard a podcast by Renee, and Renee was talking about what she was learning from you. And so then I went back and listened to some of your podcasts, and it realized that I had no idea. I was actually sort of embarrassed inside about how much I thought I had that right and how much I didn't. And armed with the knowledge that I've gradually built up through the 3 stages of the academy, I realized my gap in learning was as if my only training for this event had been a sprint race, the shortest race possible. And I got it so wrong. And so nutrition's the big one. There are other issues that I will do differently. I don't think I necessarily did them right or wrong on the days, but there are other issues like when Ian says to me, you look really cold, put some more layers on. Yes, got to go with that advice on day 3.
Thank you, husband.
Yeah, thank you, husband. There are other issues around the race that I will change, but that's because it's a different race and that's because there's some new things I know. But nutrition, mindset to a certain degree, particularly around swimming and around training and going back to actually I'm good enough, I'll continue to work on that as well.
So what are some of the things in your race and leading into your race that you did nutrition-wise that you know you definitely want to do differently this next time?
I spoke with a nutritionist, not a sports dietitian.
Oh, there's your mistake.
It's
like episode 1 of the podcast is what's the difference between those two?
Yeah, so I went to someone who I had been getting appropriate advice for different personal and sporting events in my life over a long period of time. So I had a high level of trust with that person, and that was good. However, I should have actually understood the difference between the enormity of what I was doing and where I could have gone for that advice. So that one's on me. I've always been quite a low-carb athlete, and that has served me fine in my training and Ironman. This was obviously a very different beast. And so I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I might have been fueling enough for training and recovery because during my prep, my training load was towards the end, around 25 hours a week. I work full time. Children are at uni, so I'm not in that zone anymore. My recovery felt good. But during the 3 days, my food did not assist my recovery as well. So just got it completely wrong.
You didn't get it wrong. You just didn't get it right.
Yes, that's true. I put the attention to the area, but I wasn't seeking the advice from the appropriate person. I'm not a researcher myself. I don't go on to Dr. Google and find out what I do. I do go to the experts in the area. That's my approach to life and training. And I didn't do that this time around. And I ticked that box so thoroughly this time. that was one of my personal commitments, because part of going back is, do I want to fail again?
You didn't fail. Change your language.
No, I know, but that is an element. I did not complete it. There is an element of soft failure, if you want to call that. And so I had to think that through in my own mind about going back again. And that's why I'm saying this is a new race. And this is the first time I will have raced Ultraman as an athlete in my 60s. And it's the first time in 2024 I'm going to have raced that race. So I'm reframing that myself.
Well, we'll change your language in the next, 12 months to more positivity, Denise.
No, there's plenty of positivity there. Otherwise, I wouldn't be stepping on the start line. Believe me, Port Macquarie has a lot of lawn bowls clubs, and I've been cruising by them to see what the uniforms look like. So I have very thoroughly sat with myself for the last 3 or 4 months to say, is this how I want to spend a large part of 12 months of my life? And is this where I want to spend my time and my energy? Is this what excites me to do for myself in the next really 18 months? Because preparing for Ironman is part of my Ultraman journey.
Yeah, it's a good little stepping stone into a 3-day, multi-day event. So some of the challenges that you had in the first one, and we've talked about this briefly, but like using the wrong sports products, feeling really full and bloated, and obviously just significantly underfueling, I think would be some of the key things. And then not backing up and recovering and filling your glycogen tank up after each day to back up and go again. Would that be fair?
No, that would be fair. And I think not filling my glycogen tank would be one of the most critical elements of that, and not understanding the longer I went, the more I needed to fill that tank. And of course, the 3-day repeat about that as well too.
Yeah, because it's not distances to be sneezed at. It's 515 kilometres or 320 miles over the 3 days. It is a lot of work, and it is on the lower intensity end in a way. So we are using some fat and some carbohydrate at that intensity, but the longer you go, the more you use. So you're going to bonk or hit the wall unless you're replacing a whole heap of that at the time, and then being really aggressive about replenishing afterwards to go again for the next day for the exact same thing again.
And I think the extra challenge that I have is that I like to get value for money. So I'm out on the course for as long as possible. So with the 12-hour cutoff, I am out there pretty close to that 12-hour mark. And so by the time I get back to the house to recover, it's almost time to go to bed to get up at 4 o'clock the next morning. So I've got to be making the most of all of that time on day 1 and day 2 to fuel.
Yeah, it's a very, very tight turnaround. So what are Are you a triathlete sick of fumbling around in the dark with your nutrition? Is nutrition the missing link in helping you reach your goals? And do you want to maximise your training efforts and level up your performance? Of course you do. Come and join me for free at Fuel School. It's a free 3-day live and online nutrition training week. And I've designed it to give you the nutritional edge in 2024 and lay the foundation of your day-to-day fueling and race nutrition. It's on the 14th to the 16th of January, 9 a.m. Brisbane time, so Australian Eastern Standard Time every day, which is 3 p.m. PST, 5 p.m. CST and 6 p.m. EST on the 13th to the 15th of January. To register, head to fuel.school. Yep, www.fuel.school. Whether you're a seasoned triathlete or just starting your nutrition journey, this free event is your opportunity to learn from an advanced sports dietitian and triathlon nutrition specialist and transform the way you approach your nutrition for 2024. Fuel.school, it's free. I'll see you there. Some of the things that you've now equipped yourself with that you're more confident about to toe that start line in 2024?
I will have a greater variety of food available to me across those 3 days. I used to eat in a very repetitive, narrow way, and I still do that to a certain extent, but it's much improved to how it was. And so I will have a lot more options across the 3 days, but make sure that all of those options add up to the same numbers that I need across those 3 days. And my crew are really across my strategy. One of them is an academy athlete, so they've experienced your advice. The other one is my daughter, who has seen my athletic journey as well as family. So they will really understand what I need and will be telling me to take that. I will just reprogram it also differently. And rather than saying, oh, give me one of this or give me one of that, they will be handing me what I need at that time and I will be having that. So take any decision making out of it really will be the key. I'll also carb load. I don't think I carb loaded at all. Now that I look back, that's another learning. Isn't that exciting? And I will have, for me, a lot more hot food. It was very heavy rain, day 2, day 3. Day 3 was really cold and I needed more options of hot food because I was so cold and couldn't eat very well by then as well.
Yeah, your mouth is pretty manky at the end of 3 days, particularly with, like, you use those spring energy products with a lot of the gels, which are quite thick and hard to get down. And their kind of philosophy is calories rather than carbs. And so you might be chewing through a fair whack of calories, but you're not actually doing any fueling for those calories.
I will sit down with you and rewrite the plan and train on the plan and have it nailed in my head and have it nailed for the crew so that my body also knows what it's eating, what to expect to have and how that works for me.
Amazing. And you've been playing around with lots of products lately. Like every time I talk to you, you're doing something different, which is good. And I think that's really important to highlight. Like it's not a one size fits all, you've got this plan and it's fixed forever. Like it can constantly change and evolve and even adapt for the different types of events that you're doing. Like your Ironman race nutrition products might be completely different to Ultraman race nutrition products. So it's just a different beast. And so your nutrition needs to match that beast.
And also during the weather, Noosa can be really hot. It happened to be incredibly wet and cold when we were there. So I'll need to prepare for things I'm really comfortable eating in hot weather and have the cold weather options back as well too.
And one of the things that you probably don't realise you know how to do now is to adapt things on the fly and troubleshoot, which is also really valuable in a situation like that.
I think that's something I've really learned through the academy because we talk about light, medium, heavy days, and I'm 2.5 weeks out from Ironman Australia. So I have been adapting that training plan and I've had the printed version that you and I chatted about in October when my training was a bit lighter, and then the printed version we chatted about in February on the fridge. And I often sort of just go back to that just to double check. And this week I couldn't find it. I've obviously put it somewhere else. And I thought every day right now is pretty heavy except for Thursdays actually for me right now. So I know what that eating looks and feels like. And sometimes I just go back to sort of double check how many carbs it is at dinner or whatever that is. And I'm not fussing about it anymore and it's not stressing me anymore. And of all the things I've learned in the academy, I'm not stressing about food and it's not occupying 23 of my 24-hour waking thoughts around the stress about what I should be eating or drinking. So, Ultraman's amazing and it's exciting and it's very important to me, but no race defines who I am. And so to have information now through the academy, which means I can go and do any adventure, including lawn bowls, and feel really comfortable about what I'm eating and drinking and enjoying and not be worrying about it, that's a gift that I've been working on quite a lot for the last 10 years and most of my life. So that is the life-changing step for me, wherever my race history and my athletic history and my adventure history winds up lying in the next few years.
Yeah, that's amazing, Denise. We've never really talked about that, but I think that's a really good outcome of getting some nutrition education is being able to quieten down those noisy voices in your head, because the dieting culture is massive and eating for life is so different to eating for triathlon, and it's just trying to get that balance right. We need to think about food as fuel for performance. It's not a punishment. It's not something we restrict. And I think that's a really nice mentality to have, particularly as you head into a 3-day multi-stage event where food is going to have to be your friend. If you have any sort of qualms about it, then you're stuffed. So I think that's a really nice place to be, like nice to be there early as well. You've got a whole year to sit with that and work on that even further.
I think there are a couple of things I wouldn't have compromised in my life to go back and do Ultraman. One is I needed to know I had family support, and I've got that in tons, for which I'm very grateful. And then I needed to know that elements of my crew are happy to front up again, and the group of supported women. That's not essential, but it's lovely to know that you're supported and loved and my coach is willing to go for the ride again. But I also need to know that it's not going to make me an unhappy, stressed person for those who I'm spending all my time with. And that's really critical with me, for me.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's all absorbing in a way. Have you got the same coach for this one as you did for the last one?
I do. And I'm very fortunate that I work with Ben Johnson at Smart Coaching in Port Macquarie. And Ben is another quiet achiever, actually. He comes up with different options. He takes on board my thoughts and very much my feelings, really works with me to have a positive mindset around what I'm doing, but not unrealistic, and is just there with different ideas and different approaches and can eyeball me at swim squad and know it's been a hard work day or someone's telling me to swim faster where that's not physically possible for me. He'll just nicely say, no, just get in and swim. Don't overthink it. Focus on what you can focus on. And how lucky am I to choose Port Macquarie and not even know such a wonderful coach was here for this crazy race.
There you go. So are you doing anything differently with him then from a training perspective from Ultraman 1 to Ultraman 2?
Yes. So we've just worked in the lead up to Ironman where my work has been really busy. So I've been running on, for me, a slightly lower volume, which is actually really important for Ultraman because, as you say, you can't go out and train those distances all the time. So it's a really good mindset for me. We're working on me understanding that I'm actually quite a good swimmer, that being in the back of the lane is fine. I'm training for an Ultraman and I'm an adult learning swimmer over the last 10 years, but I am more competent than I ever give myself credit for in terms of swimming. Working on my power for the ride and my pacing and confidence for the run and working on my recovery as well. But when we sat down after the race, and I actually had a real conversation with Ben about, I really want to go and do this. What do you think? We were very much aligned on if I can tighten my swim time. I was 5 hours 10. The swim time cutoff is 5.5 hours. If I can pull that back a bit, my ride comes back a bit, I get into bed a bit earlier on day one, that sets me up successfully for day two. So that's what we're looking at.
Okay.
Yeah.
And any particular sessions that you're introducing or any different strategies that you can share with us that you're going to do this year?
I did some really big events. I did 2 12-hour days in the Victorian Alps on the bike where we climbed crazy Everesting in January. And then in March, I did a crazy one-day race in the Snowy Mountains. I won't do those events this time around. That took a lot of time and energy and in some ways built a lot of confidence, but it also took a lot of recovery. So I will be far more careful in what I sign up for that then poor Ben has to program. I'll actually check with the coach first. That would be most exciting rather than saying, oh, that looks good. Let's go and do that.
Be a good athlete and do what you're told.
Exactly. And also, I'm actually going to take 6 months off work. Ian and I run our own company and have done so for the last 30 years. And I've decided to give myself long service leave. So I will not work 5 days a week and I will run the company and work with my team. So keep a hand in there, but not be doing the work. So I just think that opens up a whole different aspect to my recovery and my stress and my training.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if you want to have a nap, you can have a nap. Or you could spend all day eating if you need to.
All the options.
Or you could just go train all day if you needed to as well.
You know, one of the very simple things for me is I might do my long days Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays, and on Saturdays and Sundays. I love park running Port Macquarie with Port Paces. It's one of my favourite things in life. That doesn't get a Guernsey if I'm out there riding all Saturday. So I'll be able to pull some of those beautiful things in to my social life because most of my social life is either around training or book club and include those.
Or work, right?
Or work, yes.
That's amazing. That sounds like a nice little balance. I'm actually really excited to see what you can do when you don't have to work 5 days a week in a high stress, crazy job.
Yeah, well, one of the things I realised is, training will be my job.
Yeah. Full-time athlete.
Yeah, aren't I the lucky one to be able to do that as well too? I very much appreciate I've got the ability to do that and the body that just seems to love the long stuff. So that's good. Yeah.
So exciting. Oh, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that. So when will you take time off? From December onwards or a little bit earlier?
August the 11th.
This year?
This year, yes. So August to May. I'm going overseas for 2 weeks with my mother's group to Sicily, which is so much fun. And then I will come back and we'll have a training block and take it from there.
So good. So what's the grand plan then, Denise? Do you want to go to Ultraman World Championships? Like, what's after?
Well, over winter, I'm seeing how many things I can qualify for the World Multisports in Townsville. And because I'll be in the 60-plus age group, I'm really hoping there's not 25 female athletes who want to do the cross-country triathlon. So I actually will spend my birthday in Townsville. So that will be nice.
For the long course worlds?
No, not interested in that. One of my values is I like to be able to drive places with my bike and not have to put my bike together. So Townsville will be it. And then I don't want to ever say my extra long course career has finished. However, realistically, I think I'll go and pursue different adventures. So it might be like a long ride or a long swim or a long run, not the level of stress that obviously puts on my body and does put on those around me as well too. But I'm pretty open to what the next adventure is.
So I know you a little bit better than you think I know you, and I know that there's something coming. You're just not going to tell us yet.
That's really interesting because I would actually usually agree with that, Taryn. I feel there's not another Ironman in me.
That's because you're 2 weeks away from an Ironman. Yeah. No one 2 weeks away from an Ironman wants to do another Ironman.
No, because I don't have to pay for accommodation because I live in Port Macquarie.
The run course is right out the front door.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's actually my son, when I was talking to him about the race, he said to me something really good. He said, I really like to do different events and I really like to do ones that are a bit left of centre. And I think Alec is really right. And I like to do events where family can come. So that largely is Australia, although I'm sure they'd all volunteer for an overseas trip. So, yeah, there will be something. I'm thinking it might be an off-roading type thing.
Yeah. So good. You could do coast to coast in New Zealand.
I did listen to Kirsty's podcast. The thing that did interest me was there's an athlete called Donna Marshall she ran to Dover from London Bridge, then she swam the English Channel, then she rode a bike to Paris. Even I figured I'm not swimming the English Channel, and I'm very comfortable saying I would have loved that race, but no, my ability is not to swim the English Channel.
It's a long day in the water.
It'd be a long year in the water, Taryn.
You'd get really good at swimming though.
Yeah, I'm also really passionate about women and them looking at opportunities in sport and running their own business. So there's a lot of things that I hope I can continue just to support other women doing whatever makes them happy.
Yeah, amazing. You'll always have your fingers in some sort of pie doing something, Denise. You're not the type of person that sits still and does nothing.
No, not at all. Although a little bit of reflection goes a long way too, Taryn.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your insights into Ultraman. I know that there's a lot of people that'll listen and be like, she's crazy. And there's a lot of people that'll listen that go, I want to do that too. So thank you for sharing those insights. There's nothing on the internet about stuff like that. I talked to Jody a while back who did Ultra 355 and trying to do research for the event and how you prepare and what it's actually like. Nothing exists like that. So if anybody's out there and wants to ask you a question about Ultraman, how would they find you?
They'll find me on Facebook. They'll find me on Insta, where I'll be tagged in the post. Otherwise, ask Taryn and she'll give you my details. That's all good.
All right, I'll put those links in the show notes too. But good luck and congratulations for everything you've achieved so far. And we'll get you back, if you want to talk about it, after Ultraman 2024.
I'm sure I'll be happy to talk about it. And I will have another adventure by then too.
Yep, sounds good. Thanks, Denise.
Thanks, Darren.
Thanks for joining me for this episode of the Triathlon Nutrition Academy podcast. I would love to hear from you. If you have any questions or want to share with me what you've learnt, email me at podcast@dietitianapproved.com. You can also spread the word by leaving me a review and taking a screenshot of you listening to the show. Don't forget to tag me on social media at dietitian.approved so I can give you a shout out too. If you want to learn more about what we do, head to dietitianapproved.com. And if you want to learn more about the Triathlon Nutrition Academy program, head to dietitianapproved.com/academy. Thanks for joining me, and I look forward to helping you smash it in the fourth leg. Nutrition!